Hello and welcome to Michael's Sports Minute Special. I'm your host for the Sports Minute Special, Michael McKenzie, and today we'll be breaking down the NFC playoff contenders going into the final week of the season. In the NFC, 5 teams have secured their spot in the playoffs, still 1 spot and 2 teams vying for it. We'll break down each of the 7 teams who are either in or still vying for that last playoff spot. First, we'll start off with the number 1 seeded Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles have the number 1 seed, but losing Carson Wentz, that was a big problem for the Eagles. Nick Foles, still a close game against the Oakland Raiders, and Nick Foles showed a lot of weak spots during the game. He'll have to fix those up for the playoffs as they have a bye and a game. Yeah, they have a bye in games against the Cowboys this week, so Nick Foles is going to have to fix those weak spots and give the Eagles and their fan base some hope going into the playoffs as the playoffs will go through Philadelphia in the NFC. Now we move on to the Minnesota Vikings. The Minnesota Vikings are the 2nd seed in the NFC, and after a Week 2 loss to the Steelers, and it was not just a close loss, it was an impressive loss, not a good loss to say the least. But after that, the Eagles really picked up the slack. The Vikings really picked up the slack. They are 12-3 now this season, having the 2nd seed. And Case Keenum, one of the surprise quarterbacks, one of the surprise players of the 2017 season, and leading the Vikings essentially to the 2nd seed in the NFC playoffs. Now we'll move on to the 3rd-seeded Los Angeles Rams, who the first overall pick in the 2016 draft, Jared Goff, didn't get much action last season, got put in sort of towards the end of the season. Finally, after trying out some other quarterbacks, the Rams finally turned to him. Didn't show very much potential last season, but this year he has really picked up this Rams team. The Rams are now on their way to the 3rd seed and hosting their wild card game. They got the 49ers this week. If they win against the 49ers, that will bring their record to 12-4. A very impressive and a surprise team on the season. Everybody talking about Jared Goff, but we cannot forget about Todd Gurley. Gurley last year with a mediocre year, clearly the best player on the Rams. But him and Goff have taken this team above and beyond. But Gurley this year has had a fantastic year compared to last year. Last year, again, a mediocre year, but this year an off-the-charts year for Todd Gurley. So those two in the backfield have really given the Rams this boost. Now we'll move on to the New Orleans Saints, who don't have the 4th seed locked up just yet. They still have to clinch the NFC South, but they can do so with a win or a Panthers loss. The Saints have the Buccaneers this week, and the Saints with a win or a Panthers loss again will clinch the NFC South and home field for that wild card game they have against the Carolina Panthers. The Saints have had a really good start to the year, starting out 7-2, and a great start. Everybody thought they're going to be one of the teams that gets a first round bye. They were in the top 2 to start the season, but kind of a fall off in the middle of the year. They still have an 11-4 record going into the final week of the season and looking to make it 12-4. And Drew Brees back on track after a couple of mediocre to low number years. Drew Brees is back atop the charts, and he's again in the history books with 2 5,000-yard passing games, 5,000-yard seasons, I should say, for Drew Brees. So again, the quarterback, Drew Brees, back on track, getting this Saints team to where they are right now, getting them into the playoffs and possibly winning the NFC South. Now we move on to the Carolina Panthers, who could possibly win the NFC South. Last year, a mediocre year, but the Panthers and Cam Newton with some controversy. Even towards the end of the season, Dave Gettleman no longer the general manager for the team. But the Panthers have overcome that 11-4 record. But the Saints hold a tiebreaker over them. That's why they are in the 4th spot and lead the NFC South at this point. So if the Panthers win and the Saints lose, the Panthers will host the wild card game between them and the Saints. And again, the Panthers could be the 5 seed or the 4 seed, looking to become the 4 seed and win the NFC South as they return to the playoffs. Now we move on to the 6th seed. We'll begin with the Panthers, who hold the 6th seed currently, and the Falcons last year, the 2nd seed in the NFC going into the playoffs, went to the Super Bowl. We're up 28-3 on the Pats, and then the comeback for the Patriots to win their 5th Super Bowl. And now the Falcons had very high expectations for Matt Ryan going into the season, and they really haven't met those expectations, but they're still looking to get into playoffs with a win or a Seahawks loss that would put the Panthers into the playoffs. No, it'd put the Falcons, I should say, into the playoffs, and they would have to face the Los Angeles Rams. But the Falcons not meeting much expectations, but still are in a good position to get that final wild card spot. Now we move on to that final team vying for that wild card spot. The Seahawks were not in it. The only 8-7 team in the NFC who currently holds a spot where they could be that final wild card team in the playoffs. Russell Wilson, not a great start to the year, but the Seahawks picked it up mid-season to the end of the season, and Week 17 could hold true whether the Seahawks get into the playoffs or they will miss out just by that much. So the Seahawks and the Falcons. For the Falcons, all they need is a win or a Seahawks loss, and they're in. The Seahawks need a win and a Falcons loss to get into the playoffs. Well, thank you for tuning in to Michael's Sports Minute Special, the NFC Playoff Breakdown. Like, share, and subscribe for more Michael's Sports Minute Specials, more content on the channel for the upcoming January, February, and March. We got 3 more months, and then we're back at ball hawk and back at baseball season. So we'll be talking football. We will be talking football, college football, NFL football, and we'll be talking some basketball in March when football season is over. Again, thank you for watching. Like, share, and subscribe for more here on Michael's Baseballs. And until next time, good night.